Welcome to Adobe Photoshop, and I'm assuming that you've already downloaded these free actions. If you haven't, you can go down to the description below. All right, the first thing you need to know, if you haven't already and you do not know how to load actions, they're really easy. So these come in a zip format. Simply open your zip. On a Mac, you would just double click it. I'm not sure how you do it on a PC. I think you right click and say open compressed file. Once that's open, you'll get this action file with the ATN extension. You'll simply just double click this. Now you need to make sure Photoshop is open, but double click this and it should automatically load. If it doesn't and you are in button mode, so you want to open up your actions window, which is window actions, all right? You want to come here, just click on the hamburger menu and you can hit load actions. And then you would simply navigate to that ATN file and load that. And that's simply all you need to do to upload the actions. And what I'll do here is just run through the process of what these do. Now these actions go from here down to the bottom of this thread. The ones below this are not part of the free actions that you've just received. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to run through here and explain what everything does and how to work them. And at the end, there's something called a stop in some of these actions that explain further how to adjust it. They get kind of annoying, so I will explain to you how to get rid of them at the end. Let's come on over. So we've got this first image. In the first two images, we have our luminosity curves and luminosity levels. And these both work exactly the same. And so if you work with curves, use curves. If you use levels, you use levels. Why only curves and levels and not brightness, contrast, and exposure? Well, you really shouldn't be wasting your time using them. These are better. So let's go ahead. We'll use curves this time. We'll use levels later. So I'm going to go ahead and click this and boom, it runs through. And what this is simply just a curves adjustment. And you'll notice when I adjust this, nothing is happening to it. That's because the mask that we have is black. So if you have a black mask, it hides the adjustment, which is this. So you need to come in here with a brush, color white, and wherever you apply that, it will make that adjustment that we see there. Now, the second part of this, the blending mode has been changed from normal to luminosity, and luminosity is just at the bottom of that menu if you see it. And what this does, it only affects the brightness of the image. Normally when you do a curves, if you make a big adjustment, it can shift your color a little bit. This makes it so it just adjusts the brightness of your image. That is how you use this. So the reason I make the black mask is it just makes it easier for the process. Usually it's easier to paint white into the area versus the opposite, which would be paint black into everywhere else. Levels works exactly the same, except for you're using levels. The next we have curves, and these are both the same. So this is curves luminosity mask for the shadows, and this one's for the highlights. And these do something pretty interesting. Actually, it's one of my favorite aspects of Photoshop. And I'm going to go ahead and click this. And what this does is it creates a luminosity mask. And I know it looks just like a black and white image that we see over here. So if I click this up so we can see it here, yeah, it looks like a black and white negative. And masks still work the same. Where you see white is where the adjustment's going to happen. And where you see black, it's not going to happen. However, and then where you have grays, it's going to give you a percentage of the adjustment. So this is the adjustment. And let's say I did plus 10 on brightness. Well, wherever I have 90% white, it's going to make 90% of adjustment. 100% white, 100% of the adjustment. 50% gray, it's going to do 50% of the adjustment. And this is geared to do more of this towards the shadows of the image. So if I was to come in here and click on this, and make a shadows adjustment, more of that's going to happen in the shadows than the highlights because it's getting blocked. So let's turn that one off real quick and we'll click on the highlights. Highlights is exactly the same, except what you'll see this time, it's a positive. So remember, it's happening in the whites, blacks, it's getting hidden. So if I come in here and I adjust highlights of the image, it's only going to be happening in the highlights areas in the midtones. It's not going to be having as much in the shadows. So that is what those two luminosity masks do. We'll select both of those and delete them because we're not going to use it. Below that, we have a levels, a curves, a hue saturation, and a color mask. So I will quickly just click on these so you can see what they do. We're going to click on the levels, the curves, hue saturation, and the color. So these create all these adjustments. However, they create them with black mask, just like before. Haven't made the adjustments, you need to make sure that you click on this and make your adjustment, and then you simply take that white brush and you paint into the mask. That's what all those do. We'll go ahead and select all these and hit delete. Last one we have here is vignette. So this creates a simple vignette. And I think this one has what we call a stop. And so this just gives you information of how to use this. We're going to go ahead and hit continue since I'm going to explain it. We've created this vignette, and I've created the vignettes pretty strong. So if you want to reduce the amount of the vignette, you can simply just come up here to the opacity of this layer, drag this down, and it's going to reduce the amount of that. You can also, because I've created what we call smart filters, double click right here where it says Camera Raw. And it will take you back into Adobe Camera Raw where this vignette was made, and right here, and you can simply adjust it there. So if you want less of the effect, you just slide that, hit OK, and then boom, just like that, we're back to where we were. And that is how you use vignette. We're going to delete that. The next two we have are simple sharpening methods. I'll just click on this high frequency sharpening. So we'll click on this. It will run through a set of actions. And this also has a stop, and it says the percentage is set at 35. So that means right up here, we're using 35% of this adjustment. So the amount of sharpening is really dependent on your final size of your image. So make sure you always size your image and then run this sharpening. So I can simply just come up here and lower this to get less sharpening and raise this to get more sharpening. And that's how that works. High pass does exact same thing. You also have a mask. So if you just wanted to sharpen this, which would make sense, you don't want to sharpen the sky, you can simply invert this, take your brush again with the color white, and wherever you paint white into that mask, where it's going to sharpen. And that's what you do. Localized sharpening is super helpful in an image because like skin tones, and there's areas in images that don't need to be sharpened, because what sharpening does is it increases edge contrast. So think of that when you're sharpening. Edge contrast is just sharpening edges, and that gives you the pop. Let's go ahead and delete this. Down here, the next thing we have are these actions. All of these are matte split tones. So I'll go ahead and click on the matte gold blue. It will run through the actions. You can see what it does here. You can adjust them. I leave all the layers so everything can be adjusted. This is the effect you get on this one. And look, these don't work perfect on every single image because this effect doesn't work perfect on every single image. It really depends on your image. Now, these also have a soft focus available, and you notice that the mask right here is turned off. It's black. So if you wanted it to be applied, and this is going to apply to the whole image, it's going to blur it. Okay. So what we could do in this case is if I just wanted it back here in the background, we could either make a selection by clicking here and going select subject, and it's going to select this subject. And then we go to the mask, and we're going to simply hit Command Shift I, which is Control Shift I on a PC, because we want to select the opposite. And then we can fill white here. So you can go to Edit, Fill, White. Okay, and now that's blurring that. Just like before, you can double click on the Gaussian blur and do less Gaussian blur if you'd like. Definitely is going to be helpful in this, and the blur isn't so helpful in this image. Or we can hit Command Z, Command D to get out of it. You could also simply just go into the mask with the color white. And so I could blur this area back here. And this blends in a whole lot better. So that's just blurring that area. So that's what that blur does there. So we'll go ahead and hit delete. Those are your split tone matte actions. And if you don't want matte, I'll just go ahead and click this one. It's really simple. You can simply click on this and you can simply just increase your contrast to get rid of that matte effect. Down here, these are really simple. These are just two sizing actions. And the way sizing works in actions is it doesn't understand the difference between horizontal and vertical. So I create a horizontal, a vertical, and then I create what's called a conditional. If the image is a landscape, use horizontal. If it's not, use the vertical. So the red ones are the ones you want to click on. They'll be able to identify whether you should add the 2000 pixels this way or this way. And the 2000 is for the longest dimension. So if it was vertical, the vertical height would be 2000. If it was horizontal, the horizontal width would be 2000. So we can simply click on this and you should be able to tell down here. This is going to size, sharpen for the appropriate size, which is 2000 pixels, and convert to sRGB because this is for the web and the web runs in sRGB. So click this. We'll do that. It's telling you what it's doing. If you want to change anything, this is the stop that I will show you how to fix. And you'll just hit go and boom. And just like that, you can see down there, it's 2000 pixels, just like we said before. So we can come back up here to where that started and hit this. And I can run the next one, which is 1440. So click this, boom, just like that. This one's for 1440. And why 1440? That's a normal large size image for placing stuff on a web page. That's it for how to run the actions. I'll come in here and I'll show you how to change the stops. So once you've opened that hamburger menu, you can see right here is the vignette that we had. If you come down here to the bottom, here's that stop that we had. So if you want to remove that stop, all you need to do is simply click on the stop and then come down here and hit delete and hit OK. And that stop is going to be gone. And you could do it down here on this one and any other ones that have stops in them. So they're really easy to remove once you have them. If they annoy you, get rid of them. If they don't, free to leave them there. So that's what those do. Hopefully you found this video helpful in learning how to use your new actions. If you have any comments or questions, especially if you find some issue with these and they're not working correctly, let me know. I'll fix them and then re-upload a new version. Don't forget to subscribe and have a wonderful day.